Detroit Tigers are tied with the Minnesota Twins for the third wildcard spot. We'll talk about all the playoff scenarios and preview a huge weekend in Baltimore, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, September 20th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome in, welcome all. Happy Friday, everybody. And your Detroit Tigers are tied with the Minnesota Twins for the third wildcard spot. Cleveland and Minnesota goes to extra innings yet again on Thursday afternoon, and Cleveland wins in the 10th yet again. The Tigers and the Twins have the same record, and they are tied for that third wildcard spot. Now, as we've mentioned about a billion times on this show, the Twins own the tiebreaker, so if you were to end the season with the same record as the Twins would make the playoffs and the Tigers would not. But I just want to take a show and just really lay everything out there, right? We're going to preview the weekend, talk about this Baltimore series, talk about the pitching matchups in it, what we need to happen. We're going to talk about everybody's schedule the rest of the way, the Tigers, the Royals, obviously the Twins. Talk about players that are to watch and that we're going to have to lean on here the rest of the way. Some of that stuff is pretty self-explanatory if you follow the team even remotely closely. Just really kind of lay it all out there. Be like, you know what? 9 games left. Everything to the wall. How are the Detroit Tigers going to come out of it? I think the most exciting part about this, well, that's I don't know about most exciting. One of the most encouraging, we'll use encouraging instead of exciting. One of the most encouraging things about where the Tigers stand right now is the fact that they are the hottest team among all of the teams fighting for the wild card spot, right? So let's look at the standings. This is as of Thursday afternoon. The only team that hasn't played yet in this group is Seattle. They're actually in the middle of a game against the Yankees as I record this, and they are winning. But everybody else has already played on Thursday. So on Friday morning, if you're listening, or Friday afternoon before games start, these will be the standings for these first 4 teams here. American League wildcard standings. Baltimore, 85-68. They have a 5-game cushion on that third wildcard spot. Then you have Kansas City in second, 82-71 with a 2-game cushion on the third wildcard spot. And then obviously you have your Detroit Tigers and the Minnesota Twins, both with an 80-73 record. Obviously, no game separated from the third wildcard as they both are, but the Twins do own the tiebreaker over the Tigers. And then you have the Mariners, again, currently 77-75. That is 2.5 games back from us and the Twins, but they are currently playing the Yankees. I think they were winning last time I looked, so that could change by half a game either direction. And then the Red Sox have kind of slipped away and are pretty comfortably behind the Mariners at this point. Tiebreaker scenarios. I've mentioned the Twins thing about a billion times. The Tigers also do not own the tiebreaker against the Kansas City Royals. So, if the Tigers tie with either of those two teams, the Twins and the Royals get the upper hand in a tiebreaker scenario. That is just simply better head-to-head record. I am still heartbroken, devastated, furious, you name it, that MLB decided to get rid of the game 163. I think it's an absolute crime. I think, and I understand their reasoning. That doesn't mean I have to like their reasoning, though, just because I understand it, right? They have another round in the postseason. They don't want somebody to burn through, one of their better pitchers and then turn around and have to throw in only a 3-game series, which is now what the first series is if you are in the wild card round and don't get a bye. I get it. That doesn't mean I have to like it. Okay. I think game 163s were awesome, even though the Tigers, in my lifetime, history with game 163s is somewhat traumatizing. And that's also with the Minnesota Twins, which makes it, sorry, I'm not trying to ruin anybody's day by bringing up 2009 there, but did I cry? What was I, 11? Man, it clearly hit Brandon Inge in the jersey, like so clearly. And the umpire admitted the next day, he's like, yeah, that hit him. No kidding. Thanks, dude. Thanks a lot. It so clearly hit. It's fine. We're back. We're back to playing meaningful baseball in September. We're so back. Okay. So I just wanted to lay that out, that the Royals own the tiebreaker as well. And that would come into play, A, if the Twins magically turned it around and started winning like crazy, and then the Royals kind of flamed out, then obviously you have a tiebreaker to get into the postseason. But it also contributes to the tiebreaker for who plays who. Seeding matters. And home field matters if you're the top wild card team and whatnot. So it is something that is important. And I think, knowing who the tiebreaker is going forward. So I just wanted to lay that out. It's not just, like tiebreaker to get into the postseason. It's also seeding. If we have the same record as the Royals, for instance, and we have a better record than the Twins, then we're going to be the third wild card, even though we have the same record as the Royals. Okay, so just wanted to lay that out there. This has been an unbelievable turnaround. And I think that talking about the momentum of the Tigers is so important in this scenario. We've talked about it a little bit throughout the week, and we've talked about, the looking at the other teams and versus the Tigers and who's hot and who's not. And as I started off I'll repeat what I started off the show with, the Tigers are clearly the hottest team. And it's not even, some of these teams are winning a lot of games and the Tigers are just winning more. No, like they're all sliding. Everybody else is falling apart and the Tigers are doing the opposite. It's not even they're just better. They're the only ones even playing really remotely well lately. On August 10th, the Detroit Tigers had a less than 1% chance of making the postseason. Less than 1%. Before the Twins lost to the Guardians, it was like 33 or 34%. 36, somewhere around there. Now it'll have to be updated going into Friday's game. They have the best record in baseball since August 10th. That is ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. The Tigers are 8-2 in the team's last 10 games, and every single other team that is in that playoff hunt that I mentioned earlier, Baltimore, Kansas City, Minnesota, Seattle, are all under 500, except for the Mariners, who are currently 5-5 and will maintain that if they beat the Yankees in their last 10 games. Under 500 in the team's last 10. All of them. Baltimore, Kansas City, Minnesota, all sub 500 records in the team's last 10 games. And the Tigers are playing 800 win percentage ball in that time frame. You're hitting your stride at the right time. You are trending up while literally everyone else in this race is trending down. And you play Baltimore this weekend. Let's talk about schedules. We'll talk about the Tigers schedule the rest of the way, the Royals schedule the rest of the way, the Twins schedule the rest of the way, and kind of talk about how that could play out in the Tigers' favor as well. We will do all of that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal rate of 5% APY on uninvested cash, receive 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement bonus on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on a Monday recapping what should be an incredible weekend in Baltimore for your Detroit Tigers, staying up to date in that playoff race. Also, be sure to check out Jake Rietma at Locked On Detroit Sports. And he will be obviously doing postcasts in audio form as well on this channel, on this feed for all the games this weekend. So, talking about schedules the rest of the way, the Detroit Tigers play the Orioles in Baltimore, and then the last 6 games of the season are all at home against the Rays and against the White Sox. Obviously, ending the season against the White Sox is looking like a massive benefit. Being able, with 3 games left, no matter where you are in the standings, you play 3 games against one of, if not the worst team we have ever seen, is a massive plus. When comparing and contrasting the Tigers' schedule the rest of the way to the Twins and the Royals, I view it somewhat similarly. Like, they're all kind of similar. Like, if you were to rank every team in tiers in all of baseball, you're kind of playing 3 teams from 3 different tiers, and they're all in the same tiers. So I'll explain that a little bit better here when we go over the teams. The Twins play the Red Sox this weekend in Boston, then play the Marlins at home in Minnesota, and then the Orioles end the season with them at home in Minnesota. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? Like, the Orioles and Orioles, obviously exact same team. The Marlins, one of the worst teams in baseball. The White Sox, worse than one of the worst teams. Not trying to compare anybody to the White Sox. They are far worse than the Marlins, but the Marlins are also in that, bottom tier of teams. And then the Red Sox and the Rays, not really in the playoff hunt anymore. I think they're only 2 games apart from each other. Pretty similar caliber teams there too, right? So you're getting around a 500 team, a wild card playoff team, and then a really bad team, both of you. Then we look at the Royals, right? You have the Giants in Kansas City, so they're at home, the Nationals at Washington on the road, and then the Braves in Atlanta. Regurgitated conversation, really, right? The Nationals, not very good in that bottom tier of teams, okay? Far better than the White Sox. You have an advantage there. Anybody who plays the White Sox instantly has an advantage over everybody else. Again, not trying to compare and contrast the opponents that specifically, but you're playing a bad team in the Nationals. You're playing a non-playoff team that is around 500 in the Giants, a la Red Sox or Rays. And then you're playing a team that's in the thick of the wild card race, right, in the Braves, a la Orioles and Orioles. So, again, I'm not trying to say your opponents are all identical. I'm not trying to say these are one-for-one comparisons. It's just interesting to me that you can kind of squint really hard and go, it's kind of similar opponents for everybody the rest of the way. But at the end of the day, you have 9 games remaining. You have to have a better record than the Minnesota Twins for 9 games. That's it. That's it. 9 games. It's right there. Playoff baseball in Detroit is right there, man. 9 games, single-digit amount of games. And you just have to have a better record than the Twins. So what do the Tigers need to accomplish that, right? Look, this is a conversation that is probably going to sound very regurgitated, and I am openly admitting that before we start this conversation, right? I'm going to say a lot of stuff that I've been saying the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to front y'all, okay? I'm not going to pretend like this is going to be. I would never lie to you all, okay? Like I said, I'm not going to pretend like this is you're going to get some new mind-blowing information and like the key to success, okay? But going over how they got here, that has to continue. Captain Obvious statement as well. Like, really, when you take a step back, they have, again, been the best team in baseball since August 10th. It's super easy for me to just come on here and be like, well, just keep doing what you're doing. It's not that hard, right? What do they need to do to win? Keep winning. Boom. But specifically, I do want to go over the parts of the team that I think will need to be relied on heavily here the rest of the way. Number one, 1A, no conversation, no even debate in my head, is the bullpen will continue to have to be nails. This team is going to absolutely empty the clip with their relievers. You're not going to hear a lot of like so-and-so isn't available, or oh no, no Jason Foley available tonight, no Tyler Holton tonight, especially once you get into those last 6 games of the season, because there's going to be an off day obviously on Thursday, yesterday, and then there's another off day on Monday. Once you get past those 2 off days and it's just 6 games in the end of the season, they're going to let it all hang out there. Not a lot of, fill in the blank is not available. 9 games. I'm going to keep saying it. 9 games. Pedal to the metal. Leave it all out there. They're going to empty the tank. And you need your bullpen to continue to look how it has. I'm not saying what this bullpen has done over the last month is sustainable over 162. I am saying they can sustain it over 9. And in the postseason, anything can happen, right? Tyler Holton's given up like 2 runs in his last 33 appearances or 34 appearances. Jason Foley's been a lot better lately than he was at the middle of the season. You're going to have to lean very, very, very heavily on those 2 gentlemen and everybody back there. But those 2 are your high leverage back end relievers. You're going to have to rely on them really heavily. So you're going to need gutsy and huge performances from the 2 of them. Speaking of pitching, let's transition into what else this team needs. Bullpen game success. Right? You still don't have 5 healthy starters. You haven't and I couldn't even tell you how long, since like May. You still don't. Let's talk about that. A few more things, and then preview the weekend. All right, we'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always get exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or your money back every time. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. So you're going to need bullpen game success, and we've talked about that a lot over the last several months. It's been miraculous how good AJ Hinch has been down this stretch, and I think that that's worth reiterating over and over and over again. This team's success, ERA, record in bullpen games is remarkable. The Tigers' success in bullpen games this year is unbelievably good. With what with how often they are going to have to lean on their bullpen in these last 9 games, they have to get good first, 5 innings from whoever is getting those innings at the beginning of the game. You have to continue to find success there. Offensively, obviously a huge conversation. The offense, you obviously are going to have to lean on quite a few guys here, but I think this is really going to kind of get more focused in. You're going to have to really lean on a few specific guys, is my point, right? This offense as a whole has not been great over the last month and a half or 2 months. It's been good enough given the elite pitching that they have received. But it hasn't been, this high-end juggernaut of an offense. You're going to need the pitching, obviously, because that's been your bread and butter and that's been your MO. But you're going to need a few guys specifically to really step up here. When the team is having a slow offensive day and it's 1-0 or 2-1, and you need a win to gain ground or to break the tie against Minnesota, and you desperately need a run, who are you going to rely on? Right? Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows, they have been night and day better lately than at certain points this year. Riley Green, a little bit of a cold stretch there in August. Kerry Carpenter, obviously, has had a roller coaster year with injuries. Parker Meadows, demotion and injury, has came out on the other side better than he's ever looked. Those 3 guys are going to be huge for you. But if it's somebody else, it's somebody else. I'm not saying it has to be anybody specifically, but it does have to be someone. That was crazy English right there, but I hope that made sense. Colt Keith, I don't have an update on his shoulder at the time of this recording. Hopefully he is able to go. Honestly, the biggest reason why I hope Colt Keith is healthy, even more so than just having his production in the lineup, is the flexibility that it gives the lineup the rest of the game, right? AJ Hinch loves to do the pinch hitting, loves to play the matchups, etc. Having Andy Ibanez coming off the bench whenever another team goes to a lefty is a huge advantage for the Detroit Tigers. And McKinstry's been hitting a lot better against righties lately too. So having that on your bench, having someone who's a specialist, quote unquote, at a certain handedness of pitcher on your bench at all times is huge. They need that. I'm not going to, maybe I shouldn't say more so, but almost just as much as they just flat out need Colt Keith's production in the lineup every day. That's been a huge reason for their success. The AJ Hinch numbers with, pinch hitting and whatnot have been really, really good lately. You're going to need somebody to go off here in these last 9 games. If Colt Keith isn't healthy, Ibanez and McKinstry are obviously going to play a lot of second. I don't think we see Jace Young at second. I feel like he's probably stuck there at third, but that's a possibility too. Obviously played second base his whole upbringing through the system and whatnot. This run has been really special, and hopefully the Tigers grow from this season, right? Hopefully they continue to just get better and better, but realize where your feet are right now, right? This may never happen again. I genuinely believe that and mean that. This is a magical miracle run. This isn't like, you just got a little bit hot at the right time. No, you are defying the rules of baseball. Realize a moment while you are in it. This transcends the team itself and the organization itself. This is an all-time story if they sneak into the postseason, genuinely. And if they don't, it's still going to be a second half that this fan base that we will never forget. And at the end of the day, this just means a whole lot to a whole lot of people. Bless you boys, man. Just unbelievable stuff. Pat Comerica Park next week. We have meaningful baseball in the city of Detroit once again with a week and a half left in the season. And the coolest part is this team is young. A young core is in place. And maybe, we can finally, after 8 years, 10 years of no playoffs, but after 8 years of meaningful baseball, get back to making this a regular occurrence, Why not? You remember when this was every year? It was just like, oh yeah, like the Tigers will be good this year. Every game you watch in the second half will have meaning. Forgot what that felt like. And now you're back. Orioles this weekend in Baltimore. 7:05 Eastern time. You have Corbin Burns against TBD. That's going to be a bullpen game. Saturday, 4:05 Eastern against Reese. It's going to be Reese Olson versus Cade Povich. And then Sunday, 1:35 Eastern, TBD against Albert Suarez. The Tigers didn't face last time they played the Orioles, but has had actually a pretty darn solid year for Baltimore. This is the best team you play the rest of the season, right? This series is comfortably the best opponent you will face the rest of the season. If you can win this series this weekend, you are going up against two non-playoff teams, one of which who is on pace to be one of the worst teams in the history of baseball, all at home to clinch a spot. I can't even believe I'm saying that. All right. Everyone have a great weekend. Cheer loud. Heck, go to Baltimore. Get ready to go down to Comerica Park next week. No matter what happens this weekend, no matter what happens from here on out, thank you all so much. This has been one of, if not just straight up, the most listened to and watched week in the history of this show, which is really saying something. I've been here for 3.5 years, a little over 3 years. And there were, two hosts well before me as well. And I have just been blessed enough to be the host when the team turned it around a little bit. So don't take that for granted. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for the support of this show, the continued support of this show. When they lose, when they were 9 under, when they were losing dang near 100 games back just 2 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. Appreciate you all. Not trying to make this about me. This is about the city of Detroit. This is about y'all. This is about the Tigers fans. So I'll end it there. But thank you so much for the support of this show. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shouts to every dayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on Monday recapping the biggest series the Tigers have played in 8 years. And that's beautiful to say no matter what happens. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.